A.K. Coleman, who I didn't think really existed, but I was just at another meeting with her, so now I know she does.
Yes.
Yes, I feel better now. I wasn't sure. I thought it was just a cover that you guys all used.
So you're like, talk to Sherry Coleman about that. She'll help you with all your issues.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah, she is our fearless dean and owner of this WebEx account. So.
Well, it was always nice to actually see that she exists because she is on so many of them. Fun. I just wanted to kind of throw a disclaimer out. We're in the middle of a tornado watch.
Ooh. In
Virginia. Yes, a violent thunderstorm thing, and I'm watching the weather map just to hit us. So if I leave you, it's not because I'm not really enjoying myself. It's just that I'm now sitting in the dark. I just wanted to forewarn you.
Safe. I can't believe that Virginia is getting tornadoes. That's a little bit scary.
It's very unnerving because we have trees on the island this week, and I always worry about trees coming and things like that. It's a very scary thing. We'll see. It's real interesting. The weather radio alarm just went on again. So it'll be. Thank you, Tamara. I appreciate it. I hope we're safe too. I'm more about my horse than my house. Pathetic.
Well, this is probably hard to replace. Like family.
In particular, yes.
All right. Well, it's 8:30 now, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. While you're still online, if you could give me a hand, it looks like there might be a few people who aren't connected to audio. If you look at the participant list, they don't have any symbol next to the name. So you can message them and make sure that maybe they called in. So I just want to make sure that those people are
Sure.
See but not here. So to those of you who are on the call, Stephanie told me that she's all set. I'm not sure if that's a student Stephanie or one of our instructors Stephanie. So hello Stephanie, I'm glad you're here. We're getting to the final project, and we're going to start with ECO 201. So if you are an ECO 202 student on the call or faculty, you're welcome to hang out and hang on until 9 o'clock when we get started with 202. If you're one student, we're going to get started straight away. So what I'm going to do is we don't have anything new for the project. So you guys in 201, if you're finished all your milestones, you have your whole paper. So that's really great news for you. The one thing that you'll want to focus on for this time is to make sure that you incorporate the feedback that your instructor gave you throughout your milestones. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Everyone's comfortable with going through their feedback. And also, I need to explain to you all of you the difference between the efficient level from your milestones and exemplary level that's on the final project, which we didn't have in the milestones. All right, I just need to mute back. All right. So the to you all the rubric for the final project. And what you'll notice when we're in there is that it looks a little different than the rubric that you have for your milestones. Now, we've talked about this in past webinars. Hopefully your instructors have talked about it. This is just something I want to reiterate, and we can go through and you can ask any questions you might have. Because again, there's no additional content that you need to add to your paper in terms of sections of your paper at this time. Shane, and this is going to just take a few minutes. Sorry, not a few minutes. It's going to take a few seconds to get going. So, in the next few seconds here. See the screen now. So I'm going to just find my chat. If you guys know in the chat if you can see it. Yes, I see it. Okay, so it is being shared. This same stuff that you're all familiar with from your milestones. So I just want to focus on the rubric with you. So in your score, you have to be at this level, at proficient right here. But you'll see that that level of performance is worth 85%. That's the level. So the reason that this is structured this way is because you to get to exemplary on your first try. A lot of you might have done that, which is terrific, but we don't want to set that expectation. That's why we have a milestone. So that's kind of a formative opportunity for you to show what you can do and what you understand and apply the concepts you've learned. And your instructor can help you bridge the gap that there might be between, let's say, proficient and exemplary with their feedback, and then work on your paper so you can get to this point. Obviously, you know, if you had scored in the needs improvement or the not evident category, the same thing. You know, you'll use the feedback that you received from your milestones to aim this exemplary category here. Let me box it. The first couple ones are going to be put forward in part of your introduction. The first one is that, you know, you use industry-specific language to establish your expertise. That's what's going to differentiate you from proficient to exemplary in your purpose statement. So we talked about this in the first webinar, and hopefully you talked about it with your instructor in your section. The purpose, doing the purpose statement for your paper, but you've done all your research and all your writing, might have been a little difficult, and you might have had to leave it a little bit vague and maybe kind of simple. So now is your opportunity to go back and in some of that industry-specific language to up with your microeconomic analysis that you weren't familiar with at the time because you hadn't done all your industry and company research at that point in time. So you can go in and really fill in that purpose so that you have established that expertise. Anna asks, what if I didn't receive any specific feedback? Should I still alter the paper? So if you're unsure if your feedback on any of these given elements is, or if you're not sure if you need to do anything more, I would ask your instructor. You say to them, you know, I got feedback on these elements, but I didn't get feedback on these other elements in my paper. Do you want to do anything to improve them to get exemplary? There's no harm in being very transparent and explicit and asking questions of your instructor. You really need to be your best advocate when it comes to, you know, to do what you need to do to be successful in this paper. So, this question, and you messaged that to me privately, so everyone else can't read what you said. If anyone is unsure about the feedback they got, or if they just didn't get feedback on a specific element, do to see if there's something you need to do to go from proficient to exemplary. They would give you feedback, and that no feedback means nothing to change, but it's always good to double check and ensure, because you don't want to, you know, you easily could have and gotten that extra 15% on those elements. You're welcome. Everyone should be pretty well prepared, since you've done a lot of research now, to move from that proficient column, or if you were below proficient, to get up to exemplary. For the history and overview, this one is really, you being well suited to the analysis, that really comes from the beginning, and that's part of choosing a good company and making sure that you worked with your instructor at the time. So this one, while it's clear, it's not something you can change at this point. So most of the time, this will be unless for some reason you chose a company that was outside of the criteria for the assignment. We get to the supply and demand section. A lot of seeing here is just using extra and showing examples to support these proficient elements. So you'll see here in this one on the impact demand trends over time. So to get proficient, you effectively evaluate trends in demand over time and explains their impact on the industry and the firm, your company. So to go to the exam category, you need to explain in detail the reasons for that trend. The guide that we created for you guys will help a lot with this. So if you follow the guide in a very detailed, thorough way, a lot of instances already be an exemplary. If you're looking at the determinants of demand, that will explain in detail the reasons for the trend. If you go through each of those determinants in detail and explain how they impacted the trends in demand that you saw. So to get you to this exemplary level, even though you were only working on your milestone. Of course, we always want to have the end in mind. You don't reach that point on your first try. Asks, what prepared to document financial performance? Your paper is longer than 9 pages. Mike, that is absolutely fine, and I actually would expect most people's paper to be longer than 9 pages when you take into account graphics. So 7 to 10 pages of text, probably a good benchmark. If it's longer, I don't expect that you will be marked down by your instructor. Heard of any instructors in our group marking students down for that. If you're concerned, you can always ask them, and they might have given you feedback thus far that says, you know, some extra information here that I suggest you take out. But if I'm giving you that feedback about taking out information that's extraneous, then I wouldn't worry about it. So it's really just go through the and see how you find evidence for, am I reaching exemplary? Am I doing what the exemplary column is asking me for if I was already at proficient? Am I incorporating my instructor's feedback? Here, if we look at price elasticity of demand, to analyze it, one way to go from proficient to exemplary is to use research. So that's one thing that we suggested in the guide. Again, the guide is intended to get you to the exemplary position, not just to keep you at proficient. So you could find some research on price elasticity of demand related to your product or service that your company sells. That will help get you to the category here. This takes you from proficient to examine all factors of price elasticity of demand. So these are listed for you in your textbook. So if you covered them all, this is a simple one. You can just go to your paper, you can see the ones that you covered, and make sure that you touch on all of them. If some of them don't apply, you can say that. Say that, you know, this factor isn't applicable or doesn't have a big impact on my product or the service that my company sells because, and listen. What this does is, in this instance, it's just proving to your instructor that you really understand each of the determinants of price elasticity of demand in this instance and how they apply to your product. I'm not sure if it's going to be totally useful for us to go through each of them individually. Does anyone have any specific questions? You can put them in the chat, or you can put them, you can turn on your mic and ask them if that's more helpful. All right. We're running the meeting. So I'll keep going and point out some other key things where I think students tend to lose points. So where students tend to lose points, I would say, is you go over recommendations. Okay, I'll definitely go over recommendations, Tamara. We'll stick to our order here. So the market share, overall market, this section tends to be a little difficult for students to reach the exemplary category. So we'll talk about that a little bit, and then we'll get to recommendations. So about market share. From your milestone, you talk about the market share of your company and their top competitors. Do that over time. So a lot of times students don't do it over time, they just do it for 1 year. So that bumped you down to need improvement. So if that's your case, definitely look to get at least another year. The more years you can get to show a real trend, the better. And that will get you to proficient. And then to get you from proficient to it's important to show something graphically. So a pie chart of each year or a bar this would be, those are a couple different ways to do it. But we want that you present data in a way that is easy for reader to read and understand. So that's why we've included that there. The other part of overall market where some students have a little bit of trouble. Specific examples of successful or failed entrance into the market. For instance, who the competitors could be, or who they have been recently, or tried and failed. So an example I would say is so a lot of students write about Netflix. It's one of our suggested companies. So into that market has been Amazon. So an example of, okay, well, here's a company that was able to break into that market and gain a viewership. That's part of one way to measure market share in that market. So that would be an example where you talked about barriers to entry, or in this case, maybe a lack thereof. So, I had a hard time with this because my company is a pharmacy, and they're the only one that sells their drugs. So I should compare to other orphan drug companies. So Beth, if your company is the only company that sells the drug, then for that very market, would be, I'm sorry, they're a pharmaceutical company, not a pharmacy. They would be a monopoly for that drug, which is common in the pharmaceutical industry, to just have one company that does one specific drug. So the barrier to entry to that would probably be patents. So you could talk about you could talk about their patent. That would be a specific example of how they're blocking entry in that case. You could talk about research that's being done by companies to get a similar drug on the market, or you could talk about companies that tried to make other drugs that didn't work, if such a thing exists. But you're talking about a niche market for, in this instance, a drug that does something specific. So with other ones, you'd have to talk about why there are no other ones in the market. And that's a major part of that. So of us, you might have products or services that are somehow patent protected, or brand protected. Even if you sell Ford Motor Company, you can't just build a Ford's label. So there are a lot of legal barriers that you can reference in this section. All right. Structure. This one is forward, but I think a lot of students maybe just miss doing here. So you want to make sure that you're very explicit about what kind of market your company operates in. When we say market structure, there are 4 different kinds of market structure. So market competition, monopoly competitive, oligomonopoly. So your company needs to 4 categories. You need to explain why. So to get exemplary here, you provide specific examples to demonstrate that that's that kind of market structure. And to understand what market structure that if it's a monopoly, well, they have to be the only one selling that product. So in the example that Beth shared with her pharmaceutical company, very easy to show that they're the only one, and that's how we define a monopoly. That would be the specific example. If you're saying that your company is in an oligopoly, you need to show a specific example to demonstrate that. So you could use some of the tools learned in class about market share concentration. That's one way to show an oligopoly. And if it doesn't reach that barrier, maybe that proves that it's not an oligopoly and it's maybe really monopolistic competition.